Welcome into another episode of Commit Breakdown. I'm Jacob Rudner. Alongside me, Swamp 247 recruiting analyst Blake Alderman, who joins us from the vehicle. Blake, we've been doing a lot of these lately, and we've got another one going. Four-star wide receiver Andy Jean has committed to the Gators. It's their second commitment today, Saturday, July 30th. He joins four-star safety Jordan Castell, who committed earlier today at the time of recording this. What can you tell me, Blake, about Andy Jean as you sit out there watching the Gator cookout with a bunch of top prospects in town right now?
Yeah, there's nothing like sitting in the AC while you're covering a cookout. If you're not going to get the ribs, at least be in the AC. So that's definitely rule one of the day. Florida's, they're hot on the trail. That we've done a lot of these this week, landing 4 commits already, 2 in the same day with Andy Jean pulling into the fold, and I can't say enough nice things about Andy Jean. I think he is a really complete wide receiver. Whenever you've got a guy that has dominated at Miami Northwestern, one of the premier schools in South Florida, and the numbers he's put up against the competition that they play against, I think he's got good football speed. I think he's runs great routes. I think he's kind of a do-it-all guy. He can take the short passes and take them the distance. He can stretch the field with the long ball. And I think he's, one of the more dynamic players to go with an already really impressive wide receiver class that Florida's putting together. So, Kerry Colbert, man, that guy's hot on the trail right now. Shout out Kerry Colbert. He gets another one of his top targets. Along with Kerry Colbert being involved here, Corey Raymond was big in there being the area recruiter. Benedict Hypolite, who is on the off-field role as the assistant, running backs coach, has a lot of ties to South Florida, was recruiting Andy at Miami. So those guys' relationship goes back about 2 years. So, the group effort, along with Billy Napier being involved, that was enough to push this one over to Florida's favor. A guy that had Florida leading coming out of an official visit there in late June. This is one where this was a guy that at the time of June, while he had Florida leading, was thinking about taking things into the fall, seeing some of these top schools play some games, kind of check things out and gauge, how they would do in the fall. And, Florida, through persistence, through having him on campus over the course of Friday Night Lights and on Saturday for their cookout, got him to move up his timeline. And here he is joining the fold.
It's a big win for Florida. And, they're now up to 16 total 2023 recruitments. And I should add that 14 of them are considered 4 stars on the 24/7 Sports composite. And again, you mentioned that strong wide receiver class, and correct me if I miss anybody, but that now consists of Aiden Mizell, Andy Jean, Eugene Wilson, Creed Whittemore, and Tyree Patterson. Again, 4 of those guys are in the 4-star category, a couple of them in the top 247. Blake, you mentioned Kerry Colbert just, going out and really showing that he can recruit, putting together a good class. Is this it for Florida at the wide receiver position? Could we see more? I mean, this is a pretty deep class, and it's big. There are a lot of guys. Is it stop here, or where do they go now?
I think things slow down. DeQuavius Sori is someone out there that Florida is looking at as an athlete. I think the question with him is, do you need another wide receiver? Because that's one position he's being looked at. Is he a guy that you need when you already have a pretty solid class? He's also being looked at as a safety, another area, landing Jordan Castell like they did earlier in the day on Saturday. I think that with him being an athlete, I think it's more where does he fit? Where do they feel like he's the best if they do go that route? But, right now I think Florida's pretty happy with the wide receiver haul they have.
Absolutely. And my last question for you, Blake, this has been a big week for Florida recruiting without question. 4 recruits in 3 days. They jumped up from number 23 now at number 12 in the 2023 team recruiting rankings. How far do you think we could see them climb within the next week? They've got camp starting on August 3rd for the actual football team, guys who are already in Gainesville officially. Are we going to see more growth here, or does it slow down for the next couple months? Like, what are you feeling here?
I think that you could still see them want to ride some of that momentum. There's some guys, that we've mentioned in our earlier podcasts, Cameron James, Will Norman. There's plenty of other guys. Cade McDonald is a guy that they really like, and they really want to get that defensive class rolling. Cade McDonald's currently on campus, 4-star defensive lineman on campus on Saturday. There's plenty of guys that seem like they're maybe leaning or trending towards Florida. I think the big question is, even Dejon Johnson, a 4-star guy committed to Ohio State who seems to be, kind of primed to flip for Florida. I think the big question is more of their timelines. I think that right now Florida is in a great spot, if not the team to beat for a lot of those guys. The question more so is, do they want to take things in the fall, maybe take some more official visits, unofficial visits, kind of gauge what else is out there. I think we could see things start to slow down possibly. Just with high school guys having their own high school football season starting, college season, college coaches are going to be starting up their own practices and having their own things to deal with. I always say gauge your class at the end of July. That's where you get your solid nucleus of guys, where you have that rush of guys that want to be done before the start of their senior year that maybe pop sometime in, later part of July, like what we're seeing now. Maybe a couple go into, the early part of August. There's some guys that I think that we could maybe see depending on what their timeline looks like. I do think things will slow down. That's maybe more my opinion than anything I'm hearing right now. That could change if we see some guys have a visit go good on Saturday while they're at the cookout. I think there's still a lot of maybe things that are still fluid there, and we'll maybe have a better idea about that after the cookout while we're able to talk to some of these guys that are here. But I think that in general, just from what I've seen through recruiting, is you have that thing where it picks, that timeline of end of July where things really pick up, guys get their decisions out of the way, and then that's where you gauge where your class is, and then you kind of see things slow down with the season starting in August and into the fall. But, things will pick back up, obviously, when the dead period opens back up, official visits for games, unofficial visit for games. But, I think in my opinion, I think we could see things slow down. But I think that depends more so on anything on timelines and maybe how the visits go today because, they've still got a lot of guys on campus today. They're still doing a lot of recruiting. So we'll kind of have to see where things play out there.
Sure. And you said gauge your class at the end of July. Florida looking poised to end July ranked roughly 12th overall in the country. It's a good spot to be as they head into kind of season mode here. A couple big prospects, as you mentioned, still on the table for the Gators as well. So room to grow. And with that, we are going to bid you farewell from this commit breakdown. Again, us talking about 4-star wide receiver Andy Jean, who committed to the Gators on Saturday, July 30th in the afternoon. For Blake Alderman, I'm Jacob Rudner, and we'll see you guys next time.